Hi, I'm Addison Carnes, and for my ELPA 6872 ethics project on cautionary tales, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about 3D printing. Now, three examples of some ethical issues that have arisen surrounding 3D printing are the creation of firearms, copyright infringement, and some security risks. First of all, I'd like to talk to you about a case involving 3D printed firearms. Now, Yoshitomo Imura of Kawasaki, Kanagawa, Japan, was an employee at the Shonan Institute of Technology, and he was arrested on May 8th, 2014, for manufacturing his own 3D printed firearms. Now, this violated the Japanese firearm and sword control law. He was actually arrested with 6 firearms that were 3D printed on a machine in his home. He was found after a YouTube demonstration of his zigzag revolver that was designed to fire 6 .38 caliber rounds. In his video, he was firing blanks, and the police recovered no live ammunition from his apartment. But Imura was unaware of the law and the fact that it included 3D printed guns. And despite this ignorance, he was still sentenced to 2 years in prison on October 20th, 2014. I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of the video that he posted. His zigzag revolver. He 3D printed all of the parts at home, used a couple of non-3D printed parts, and assembled this gun completely out of 3D printed plastic. It was designed to fire those, but he used blanks to protect the laws of Japan. That would actually fire live ammunition if you so desired. There's a second video demonstration where it could actually fire 6 shots sequentially. Here's an example of another one of the guns that he 3D printed, and the ones that were confiscated by police found in his home. And this is an example of the machine that he made it on at his home on a desktop 3D printer. For around $500, he was able to build a device that killed someone. Now, he encouraged other people to do the same, but for reference, in the United States, the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988, which was renewed in 2013, actually bans the use of and possession of 3D printed firearms. Plastic guns can get through metal detectors, which made them lethal in certain situations. And it was very difficult to control the widespread distribution of 3D models. And on a machine that costs about $500, you can manufacture your own 3D printed gun for just a few cents. Now, another issue of ethics surrounding 3D printers is a matter of copyright infringement. One of the first examples would be in 1984 there was a Supreme Court case of Sony versus Betamax, in which it was claimed that there was the potential for copyright infringement where VHS recording of live TV could be used for mass display. But the Supreme Court ruled that there are many more other legal uses of a Betamax player than copyright infringement. And so now there's a similar dilemma with 3D printers. So there are instances of IP and copyright infringement. So there's a website called The Thingiverse, which is sponsored by MakerBot, a manufacturer of 3D printers. And you could search for something like South Park and find these copywritten characters Then you can download the models for free and 3D print your own figurines. Now, this is possible because of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So it is legal as long as they post this policy stating that they will remove any of these models upon request from the copyright owner. This is the same as YouTube with music and movies, etc. Recently, a company called 3D Systems acquired the company called Gentle Giant, and they now own the license for Star Wars, Harry Potter, things like that, figurines that you would buy. And they actually are predicting losses over $100 billion in the next 4 years. This is because 3D their figures could be 3D printed rather than purchased, and so they're proposing there needs to be some sort of legislation to protect intellectual property. So an example, on their website, they're charging to fabricate this 3D printed, not 3D printed, injection molded Stormtrooper statue. But instead of paying for it, you could go to a website like the Thingiverse and find this 3D model of it. You can download it, and here's an example. Someone downloaded the model for free and then 3D printed their own Stormtrooper instead of paying for it. Now, aside from that, there are also the ethical issues of security risks involved with 3D printing. Andy Greenberg, who's the security writer for Wired magazine, he devised an experiment in 2014 where he actually warned his neighbor that he was going to break into his apartment. So he used his iPhone and an app called KeyMe to scan his neighbor's key, and then he went to a little kiosk that they own and duplicated that key. It has a machine that will CNC cut and then 3D print whatever you want onto your key. And an hour later, he came back and walked in on his neighbor while he was reading a book about Bismarck, a ship. And he said this has been a problem even since 2009, where a research project called Sneaky demonstrated that they could actually reproduce keys that were photographed from over 200 feet away. And to make a 3D printed key, all you would need is a picture of the actual keyhole and the profile of the key. And so he did another article about a 3D printed bump key that could be used to pick highly sophisticated locks. There's another video of that I'm going to show you. In here, there's an image of the keyhole and the key, the cross section. He uses it on the lock, of course, and then makes a demonstration with this 3D printed key, and they call it a bump key. So he slips on the little rubber bushing, and then he demonstrates by hammering it into the lock. It will actually disengage the tumblers and allow the lock to turn. This is just from something that was very simply 3D printed, and the files are available online, which is pretty scary actually. So using this model here, it actually shows an example of the model that's available, and you can have it match the profile of the cylinder. So he suggests that metal cut keys will soon be a thing of the past, and it will be a transition into completely electronic keys. And he says that you should never leave your keys in plain sight, like hanging from your belt or a lanyard, because someone could take a picture of it and then 3D print that key. And so he says if your key is ever out of your sight, consider it lost, because it could be reproduced and they can break in. So these are just a few ethical dilemmas surrounding the 3D printing technology.